Michael Nicholas is the lead singer and current drummer of New Jersey's faith-driven alt-rock trio, The Finite Beings. Their music blends classic influences with a unique, conscious style, creating something exceptional for today's listeners. Despite the pandemic, Michael found inspiration and penned poignant songs like The Virus and The Shade. And the band's new EP, A Shell of What Could Be, showcases their exceptional musicianship and unwavering faith. And Michael joins us now. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. So, how would you describe the band, The Finite Beings, overall, and what sets you apart from other alternative rock bands?
Well, I think the fact that we use our music to tell a story in our faith journey really sets us apart, as well as our intricate musical playing and the blend of classical with contemporary style. I think our lyrics definitely paint a unique picture in that atmosphere.
And what made you want to have faith as a big part of the music?
Well, I just can't deny the change that happened in my life when I came to faith. And I've always been, since a very young age, a lyricist and a writer. And when I came to faith, I just wanted to share that in my writing. So it wasn't even something that seemed forced. It was just me. It was just flowing out of me that I wanted to share, certain aspects of my faith and my journey with people.
Now, A Life to Come Renewed, which was your highly anticipated full-length album, how did the band kind of approach the songwriting and production process for that album?
Okay, so that was our second album, and that was recorded actually in my home studio with just me and my bandmate Donnie. And the writing and the composition, the way we come up with the songs, kind of varies. It either starts with a lyric or a melody idea that I have, or a riff that Donnie had, and we would just kind of piece it together like a puzzle and see what came out.
Of course, as I mentioned in the intro as well, you've penned poignant songs like The Virus, which is on this newer EP.
Mm-hmm.
So was that inspired by the pandemic itself, or was it actually kind of a coincidence?
No, it was definitely inspired by the pandemic. I wrote that, sitting alone in my room, isolated, and just kind of looking at my surroundings and everything going on. And I felt inspired to write a song like that and just kind of give a sense of hope in the song, but also be real with the reality that I was in at the current time.
How did you include faith in that song, assuming you did?
Well, faith is it's kind of involved in all my songs just because it's part of me. But in that song, certain lines like I'll pray in my home, things like that, like kind of mentioning the fact of how fragile life is. And then at the end of the song, kind of ending with the line, find me a peace, which ultimately is my faith. Things like that are incorporated into the song that kind of, blend it into a faith-driven song as well.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you were, of course, inspired by the pandemic. For a lot of people, it was a difficult time, especially musicians. So did you find it an inspiring time generally, or was that song kind of an exception to the rule?
I kind of wrote that song in a difficult time to inspire people, to kind of, the line to connect is to disconnect kind of refers to the fact that we're all going to be apart for a little while, but we're going to connect again. And it was kind of hope in that sense that this will pass and we will grow from this. And ultimately, there is hope in it all.
Now, what made you actually want to come out with this EP, A Shell of What Could Be? Because, of course, you've done albums previously. So why an EP this time and not a full-on album?
Well, the EP is the 5 songs on the EP feature a new member, Hunter, who is also our producer as well as guitar player. And these 5 songs were with him, and it kind of reveals like an evolvingness in our sound. Our sound is definitely evolved, and these 5 songs I wanted to put out there just to give people a sense of where this band is going.
Yeah.
And and I think that it does have a fresh new sound compared to the older stuff.
And is there a particular message or theme that you hope to convey through the album?
Yeah, like as always, we're a faith-driven band, and I definitely am an open book with my lyrics. And life can be a struggle, and a lot of these songs talk about that struggle, but they all have a light at the end of the tunnel and a hope kind of in them. So even though some songs might seem dark or might seem a little out there, there is a sense of hope in it all. And I just want to share that with people. I'm just sharing my story and how God has worked in my life. And my bandmates, create this awesome sound with me with the music, and it just places it in a really cool atmosphere that I think is a unique sound that doesn't really sound like many other bands.
Because you're a band that lean heavy on faith, how do you strike a balance between delivering that powerful message and creating music that appeals to a wide audience?
It really is a balance, because I don't ultimately try to be like a Christian rock band, or I don't try to make a song Christian. It really just kind of flows out of me because it's who I am, and I'm writing, as genuine and honest lyrics as I can to my current situations, as well as try to be creative with it. So there's a lot of symbolism in the songs. There's a lot of personal experience and things about me that I share, and I just go with it. I don't try to force anything.
And another one of the songs on the EP, called The Shade, is kind of a rock anthem that incorporates elements of bands of the 90s era. So what inspired that song, and how were you actually able to capture the 90s style?
Well, I grew up in the 90s, so I love the 90s music. I was very much into many of the grunge bands. That song particularly was very, I feel, has like an Alice in Chains kind of vibe to it.
Yeah.
Then I'm also very inspired by more classic rock stuff like Pink Floyd, which I think can kind of creep into our music in the more ambient moments and subtle moments. But when it comes to the 90s, that's what I grew up on. So I love all those bands. Many of them have influenced me a lot.
And do you think that there's quite a big appeal, probably more than ever, for nostalgic music, particularly from the 90s?
I do think that there are a lot of elements in the 90s that people are starting to crave again. But another element that I think would draw people to us is that our music has substance and a deepness to it. We're not just saying random things in our lyrics. We're not, we're kind of being poetic in a way, but using symbolism. There's just a lot of layers to what's being said in the music in itself. And I think that should draw people, because there's just a lot of our songs, the more you listen to them, the more like the detail kind of creeps up on you, and you realize how much has really gone into these songs.
Hope is Sleeping in Grace's Arms is a song which encourages finding solace in God's peace. So I suppose, is that maybe one of your more kind of open faith songs? It's kind of transparent and maybe not a hidden message.
Yeah, that one is transparent, although it does have like multiple meanings to it, because Hope is actually my daughter and Grace is my niece. So even though obviously Hope is Sleeping in Grace's Arms could definitely be meant that way, it actually came from me asking my wife one time, where's my daughter Hope? And she simply said, Hope is sleeping in Grace's arms. And I just looked at her and said, that's a song title.
Yeah, it's a great title, isn't it? Because I guess you can read into it and work out in terms of hope and grace.
For sure, yeah. And I do leave a lot of my lyrics open-ended. I mean, it definitely means a specific thing to me, but I'm all for people taking it as they perceive it for themselves as well. So I like to leave things open and kind of like mysterious in a way, all while creating a positive and thought-provoking message as well.
Well, with your music, of course, available on major streaming platforms now, how do you hope your songs will connect with and impact the listeners who discover the Finite Beings?
I hope they listen to us and just say, wow, that's something different, and that's thought-provoking. And the music, it kind of entails things from different genres. And I hope they just find it unique and inspiring. And I hope they connect with it at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, where can we find all the music? And also, what's coming up for you? Will there be another EP or another album or just more singles?
Well, right now, we do have a new demo that we're working on for a new single. Whether we make an album or not, or an EP, kind of still up in the air right now. We just released this EP a little over a month ago, so I'm looking to get some new songs together and then see what happens. We're also looking to add some new members, because right now we're just a three-piece. The three of us all play multiple instruments on the EP. So I would definitely at some point like to start doing live shows. And for that, I think we would need at least 2 new members. So looking to maybe add some more pieces to the puzzle.
Well, many thanks for joining us today. It's been great having you on.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.